history, this day in black baseball history, depending on where you see it. And I'm here to talk about some historic events that happened today, November 1st. Of course, this is the November 1st, 2025 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. Now, if you've never joined me before, I always have to give you this little fact. What I do is I give you some historic facts that happened on this day in African American baseball history. And these are things that you're not going to find any place else. And these little tidbits of history are designed to enhance your knowledge of African American baseball. And so what I'm going to do is discuss some of these historic events. And then at the end of the event, of course, after following every event, I give a little commentary based on some of my recognition and what I've studied and learned over the many years. And many of these things come from interviews that I've had. Actually, they predominantly come from interviews that I've had with players and members of my African American community. And I have to say that for the most part, when I was born up until the age of about 15, I lived in a predominantly African American community and had very little interaction with anyone outside that community. And through that, I was able to build great pride and understanding of my own people. And so a lot of what I've written over the years has come from that experience. And it's a unique experience that maybe some people who are writing the history now don't tend to have. But the other thing is, I went out and I tried to better my knowledge by going out and doing interviews. So I would spend my last dime to get in my car and travel to some place to do an interview with a player. It was the joy of my life, and now it's paying off in big ways, not only for myself, but for people who are interested in this history. Now you get a chance to talk to someone who actually talk to the people who made the history, and that makes a big difference. This is not something I got from newspapers online, just reading the newspapers, but I did all of that too. But I got those interviews. By conducting those interviews, it opened up a world of knowledge related to this topic. So let's jump right in here right now. Now remember, this time of year, you get a lot of baseball players who are playing other sports. They were multi-talented athletes. So today I have a few baseball players playing football, and I'm going to get into that. I was reviewing some things recently. Here it is, actually. I was reading this, and since I'm going to talk about some of these other ball players who play sports, they played football at college. And one of the things it says, this was a report written in 1901. And since according to this report, there have been about 2,500 Negro college graduates. Of the larger northern institutions, Harvard has 11 Negro graduates, Yale and the University of Michigan have 10 each, Cornell 8, Columbia 4, Pennsylvania 4. Of the smaller colleges, Auburn leads with 128 graduates, the University of Kansas 16, and Bates 15. Not sure where Bates is. I probably need to do a little more research on that. I will tell you this, though, that you'll find out that's interesting. One of the Harvard graduates was my cousin, so I was quite proud of that, and that's Roscoe Conklin Bruce. And the first African-American to graduate from Kansas University, which had 16 at that time, is another one of my cousins, and that is Blanche Catine Bruce. So I look at these 2,500 Negro college students, and this was a report that came out in the Indianapolis Freeman newspaper in April, actually April 20th, 1901. And so that just gives you a little history. And so as I talk about sports, I try to give you a little bit more. It's a little social history with your baseball players, all right? So here we go. We're going to jump in. The first one, okay. November 1st, 1926, Wiley College dealt a crushing 32-6 defeat of Southern University of Baton Rouge at the State Fairgrounds in Shreveport, Louisiana. Right halfback Leroy Taylor scored a touchdown early in the second half as Wiley took an 18-0 lead. Now, I didn't actually get a chance to talk to Leroy Taylor, but I did have lots of correspondence. I have letters in my records from his daughter where we corresponded as I was trying to put the history together on this young man, this multi-sport athlete who played baseball for the Kansas City Monarchs and also played football, was a football player at Wiley University. Interesting thing about Taylor, and I think George Giles was the one who told me this, Taylor had what they call a trick knee. And so I don't know if it came from injuries in football or whatever, but when he would be running across the field, his knee would jump out of socket. And sometimes he would have to stop and pop his knee back in the socket and then continue play. So he had that trick knee, played his entire baseball career with that trick knee, but still was a speedster on the base path. So that was Leroy Taylor. Now, when I interviewed his daughter years later, she told me that he worked for one of the airlines for many years. He was a member of I think it was the Masons. He was a member of the Masons, one of those organizations. And he went in for surgery on that knee. And when he went in for surgery on that knee, he passed away from that surgery. And so that was Leroy Taylor. He passed away in Los Angeles. And I'm not sure where Taylor was born. I didn't look that up before I got on, but I have it in my records. And once again, honored to talk to his daughter. I can't remember her name either, but I do have it in my records. All right. So let's go to the next one. How about this one? There's going to be a football one as well. November 1st, 1929, Jumping Joe Wiggins. I've talked about him quite a bit here lately. Caught a touchdown in Fisk University's 26-0 win over Knoxville College in HBCU football action. Wiggins is also a baseball player for the Nashville Elite Giants. Yeah, so you can look him up too. So once again, another multi-sports athlete that we're not talking about, but we get a chance to talk about him on this broadcast because this broadcast is unique. All right, so that's Jumping Joe Wiggins. Man, and he was quite the football player as well. And not as well known in baseball, but he did play for Tom Wilson's team. And then later on, he played a little bit professional football, too, right around the Nashville area. I'm also proud of this because I have a son he's a Fisk graduate. And so I'm quite proud of that. So, look, we're all over this college thing today. So, all right, so let's go to another one. How about November 1st, 1931? George Mule Suttles banged 2 home runs in a 7-6 Philadelphia Royal Giants Winter League win versus Peroni's Stars. That's Joe Peroni's Stars. The event drew 3,500 fans to White Sox Park. Of course, White Sox Park was in Los Angeles, California, and that was called the home to African-American baseball on the West Coast. And they had George Mule Suttles, who is now a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, slugging him out. And he was quite the home run hitter out of, I think it was out of Alabama. Or it was either Alabama or Georgia. I'm drawing a blank on that one. But yeah, he first made a name for himself with the Birmingham Black Barons. And then, of course, when he played in St. Louis, and man, he used to knock them home runs out of that park there because they had a short field in the outfield because there was a car barn there, what they call a car barn, where they would put trains in, probably trolley trains from the city. So anyway, yeah, so that park was not the largest park, but man, it was custom made for Mule Suttles. Yeah, so just a great player. All right, then, let's go to another one. November 1st, 1936. How about this? Another baseball player. I got to go back. Another multi-sports athlete, because this guy played basketball as well. And I'll get some basketball action on him later on. But Joe Lillard, a former Chicago American Giant, Gilkison Union Giants, pro baseball player and a football player, kicked the ball from the 23 yards line to tie the game at 3-3 versus the New York Brown Bombers and of course They were playing in White Plains. Actually, they were playing in Dyckman's Oval in New York. So the New York Brown Bombers is the team that Joe Lillard played for. And of course, they were playing the White Plains Bears. And a lot of people don't realize that there were, like there was a Negro League for baseball, there was a Negro League for football. And so I hope to talk more about that later on because some baseball players were kind of just squeezing there. And Joe Lillard went to high school in Mason City, Iowa, went to an integrated high school, and turned out to be quite the athlete. And then Joe Lillard would also play in the NFL. One of the early players in the NFL played at Oregon, played college baseball at Oregon, and he actually got banned for playing football at Oregon. And they said that he was a professional athlete, and he had played summer baseball with Robert P. Gilkerson's Union Giants. Of course, Robert P. Gilkerson operated his team out of Spring Valley, Illinois. So it's not strange that Lillard would be on that team. Of course, they played all through Iowa, Nebraska, parts of Missouri, North Dakota, South Dakota. So, but somebody was following close enough to say, we don't want Lillard playing college football, so we're going to use the time he played baseball. And at that particular time, all the newspapers, they would put African-American baseball teams under amateur sports. But for the purpose of getting Lillard out, they said, okay, these guys are professionals. And that worked, and Lillard was ushered out of the Pac-10. All right. So let's go here. All right. I always do a coming and going, but today I'm going to do two comings. And Cumming is a player who's born on this date. And one of them is November 1st, 1927. Victor Philippe Pallet or Payot. Now, most people know him as Vic Power, was born in Puerto Rico. I think Arecibo, Puerto Rico. I had the honor of meeting Vic Power, and he was the one who told me that his name was Victor Payot. And I may be pronouncing it wrong, but I'm getting as close as I can. And I used to be assistant director of public relations for the Kansas City Royals, and we had an old timers game, and he came to the game. And of course, he was quite the celebrity back in the 1940s when he played for the Kansas City Blues. He should have been the first black player on the New York Yankees. However, when he was around Kansas City, the word and the rumor was that he had too many white women riding around in his convertible with him, and they didn't want to take him to New York. So he ended up, I think the Indians ended up bringing him up. But he should have been the first Yankee ahead of Elston Howard. But they didn't like his life. They didn't like his lifestyle choices. And coming from Puerto Rico, he would date a black woman or a white woman. And right here in Kansas City, if you know anything about Kansas City, especially during the 40s. I mean, hey, Kansas City is in Missouri. Missouri was a slave state, fought on the side of the Confederates in the Civil War. So that ought to tell you something. I'll let you figure out the rest. But that was Victor Payot, Vic Power. Heck of a name. He was a great player. Oh, tremendous first baseman. All right, then. And my last one for today is going to be November the 1st, 1979. Outfielder Coco Crisp is born in Los Angeles, California. And of course, I saw him play, and many of you probably did as well. He played for several teams in the American League. Predominantly, that's where I saw him. I think he was playing with Oakland when I saw him. And he played with Cleveland. I saw him with Cleveland as well. Heck of a name. You can't forget that name, Coco Crisp. I don't know how that first name came about, but I have some rumors. And he is a graduate of the RBI baseball program. Now, the interesting thing about the RBI baseball program, most people don't know how they got started. And it was started by a guy named John Young. Now, John Young was from Los Angeles, California. He was actually a first-round draft pick by the Detroit Tigers. Let's see. Let me see if I don't know if I have the year. 1969. 1969, his first-round draft pick. And I had the pleasure of meeting John Young because I was assistant director of the RBI program in Kansas City, Missouri. And at that particular time, man, we had about 1,300 kids. So I was really good in my own part of recruiting kids. And I do have some things I would love to share for people who are trying to recruit young people to play baseball. But hey, you got to reach out to me. I have a lot of knowledge, and I would be happy to share that. And I'm thinking about doing something to maybe start some baseball here in Kansas City, because I just feel once again, like John Young did when he started RBI, that there are just not enough African American young people playing the game, and there's ways we can make some adjustments to that. So that was John Young. When I met John Young, I introduced myself as Phil Dixon. He said, "I know who you are." He said, "I have your book and I read it all the time." And that was the Negro Baseball Leagues of Photographic History. He said, "That is a great motivator for me." And John Young, unfortunately, he passed away at age 67 in 2016. I will tell you this, we had lots of really good talks, and he was from Los Angeles. And as a youth, he played for Chet Brewer. Chet Brewer's rookies baseball team that produced, man, a number of outstanding Major League Baseball players who played for Chet Brewer. And I always tell this story. I said, if a coach can get one guy to the big leagues, he's pretty proud of that, and he just tells you over and over and over again. But Chet Brewer, how about this? He probably got 15 guys to the major leagues. And at one time, he had 8 on one team that got to the major leagues at one time. And that team was included people like Reggie Smith, who was the first professional baseball player I ever met, turned out to be a Chet Brewer ball player. Enos Cabell, Bobby Watson, Willie Crawford, Bobby Tolan, Roy White, Doc Ellis. Is that enough for you guys, or do I need to keep going? Just know that Chet Brewer is a force and was a force. And the fact that Chet is not getting more recognition as a member of the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, to me, is robbery. It's a doggone shame. And I'm going to do everything I can with every breath I have to get Chet Brewer more recognition, because he deserves it. And I will also tell you a little bit about why I'm here today is because of Chet Brewer. You know, years ago, I have been working on the Negro Baseball Leagues, photographic history. I had this concept. I was going to do this book. And if you go online, you can find that book. It's out of print now. But it won a Casey Award for the best baseball book in 1992. But about 1997, 96, something like that. No, excuse me, 1987, 86, I went out to Los Angeles and I stayed with Chet Brewer for 3 days. And Chet took me around to visit all kinds of ball players and ball players' widows. And so I'm meeting the families of ball players. You know, he knew these people and they knew him. So he introduced me to these people. That's how I got a chance to meet people like Buster Haywood, he was out there, and I can name a few more. But Chet Brewer took me out there. And then the whole time I was there, Chet was telling me this story about how he was going to take this, get a Winnebago, and he and his wife, which is his second wife, the first wife had passed away from his days in baseball, and he had married a lady from Kansas City, Kansas. And so he was telling me about how they were going to do this and everything. And then on the last night, he said, "What's taking you so long to finish your book?" Now, this is the last night I'm in Los Angeles, about to fly back to Kansas City. And I told him, well, hey, I'm just typing away, doing the best I can, trying to collect these pictures and just doing the best I can. And I said, you know, what I'm planning to do is get me a computer, and then that'll I'll pick up everything a little bit. And of course, computers were in their infancy. You know, you could get an Apple computer, man. These things, they weren't cheap at all. So anyway, I told Chet Brewer about that. And when I was leaving, Chet Brewer told me, he said, me and my wife, he said, we're never going to take that trip. We're not going to get that Winnebago. He said, but I tell you what, here's $1,000. He wrote me a check for $1,000. He said, go get yourself a computer. And that's how I got my first computer, Chet Brewer. And so, guys, I'm a champion for Chet Brewer. I make no, you know, I don't have any excuses about it. I knew the man, and guess what? These guys who played for him knew the man as well. And I think that you need to know who this man was. Good guy, dedicated to baseball, as dedicated as anyone that I've ever met. One of the greatest storytellers that I ever met, one of the most knowledgeable and honest speaking men about this time in baseball that I had ever known. So anyway, that does it for me today. I just want to thank you for joining in, and this has been This Day in Black Baseball History, the November 1st, 2025 edition. We're going to keep on doing this, guys, and if you like what you hear, if you want more of this, hit the subscribe button and just stay with me, guys. We're going to keep growing this network. We're going to keep growing this knowledge. And guys, when I finish here, you're going to have so much enhanced knowledge about African-American baseball that you will be able to go out and sound like, yeah, maybe sound like an expert, especially those people who don't know anything. You're going to sound awfully intelligent. So stay with me and keep growing with me. I appreciate that very much. And have a nice day. And this is Phil Dixon signing off for now. But I'll be back. All right. Thank you. You have a nice day. Bye.